It was the scoop of the weekend, a story about political cronyism, an extramarital affair, and domestic drama in 10 Downing Street. But it then became a vanishing act. The Times wiped their explosive story from the record. What began as a juicy story grew into an even juicier one, and Boris Johnson learnt a lesson in how not to cover up a scandal. This was the story in question. Its headline blared that Johnson tried to give Carrie top Foreign Office job during affair, and the Times reported Johnson, who was Foreign Secretary from July 2016 to July 2018, wanted to install Carrie Symonds to the position of his Chief of Staff on a salary of at least £100,000. But allies intervened, fearing it would be a flagrant abuse of ethics. Quote, "It would have left him dangerously exposed," an ally who was involved in the veto said. Staff learnt of the affair after an MP allegedly walked in on the pair in a, quote, compromising situation in Johnson's Commons office in early 2018. At this time, Boris Johnson was still married to his then wife, Marina Wheeler, and the Times go on to say, three of Johnson's aides, including Ben Gascoigne, now one of his deputy chiefs of staff, and a friend of Wheeler, threatened to resign over the proposed appointment. The Times has identified and contacted 4 allies of Johnson who know of the matter, 2 of whom were given ministerial jobs when Johnson became Prime Minister in 2019, spoke in return for anonymity. One said, quote, "An illicit relationship with Carrie was none of our business. Making her Chief of Staff was definitely our business. Our job was to protect him. He kept saying she would be great in the job. We knew what was going on between them and that it was an insane risk to let him do it," unquote. So this seems like a pretty big story. Boris Johnson tried to shoehorn a woman with whom he was having an affair into a powerful taxpayer-funded role. As the relationship was secret, he would not have been able to declare it, and he only backed down from this plan after senior aides threatened to quit. However, despite its obvious newsworthiness, on Saturday morning the article mysteriously disappeared. It was only included in the earliest edition of the Times and now appears nowhere on their website. So, what happened? Well, one possibility is that the story was found to be factually inaccurate. Perhaps Simon Walters, who wrote the story, had made a mistake, or perhaps he'd relied on unreliable sources. Well, he certainly doesn't think so. After the article was pulled, Walters told the New European this: "I stand by the story 100%. I was in lengthy and detailed communication with Number 10 at a high level, Ben Gascoigne and Mrs. Johnson's spokeswoman, for up to 48 hours before the paper went to press. At no point did any of them offer an on-the-record denial of any element of the story, nor have any of these 3 offered an on-the-record denial to me since. Number 10 and Mr. Gascoigne did not deny it off the record either." And others have come out to vouch for the claims made in the article. Dan Hodges is a columnist for The Mail. On Sunday, he tweeted this: "Just on the Simon Walters story, I've now spoken to 2 separate sources who I trust completely, who confirm Boris did attempt to employ Carrie at the Foreign Office whilst he was Foreign Secretary." And Dominic Cummings went even further. So he tweeted, "The missing story pulled by Times after the Number 10 called on Friday night is true. Walters repeatedly published accurate stories, e.g. on illegal donations. Times pathetic to have folded and should reverse ferret. Truth is worse. The trolley," that's what he calls Boris Johnson, "wanted to appoint girlfriend to government job in the 3rd quarter of 2022. So Cummings is suggesting that Number 10 applied pressure to the Times to withdraw the article, and also that Johnson tried to hire Symonds again in 2020. And that first claim, at least, has since been confirmed. The Independent reports this: Mr. Johnson's official spokesperson confirmed that Number 10 was in contact with the Times before and after the publication of the first edition, but denied that the Prime Minister himself had contacted Deputy Editor Tony Gallagher, who was in charge of the paper that night. And according to The Guardian, the sequence of events has left staff bemused. They write, "Journalists at the Times were baffled by the decision to withdraw Saturday's story, with multiple sources suggesting there had been a high-level intervention to remove it. The paper's editor, John Witherow, is reported to be off work. His deputy, Tony Gallagher, edited the newspaper on Friday, with multiple sources saying he made the call to drop the story from later editions." Now, it's of course possible that Johnson called the deputy editor of the Times, or someone from his office did. What I'm even more keen to know, though, is whether Boris Johnson speed-dialed Rupert Murdoch. Either way, it gives a window into the frequently crooked relationship between the government and our billionaire-owned press.
Imagine how this would be narrated if it were an African country. Imagine how a patronizing anthropologist from afar might describe Britain if we were, say, an African country. This is a land whose highest tribal chiefs don't work. They just wave at parades and cut ribbons to open buildings. The royal family, we call these chiefs, and everyone else pays for them and their team of helpers from the lower echelons of this ruling tribe, which the locals call the Etonians. And politics in this society isn't about ideas, it's about tribal conflict. That's what you have to understand. It's about tribes standing up for themselves. So Boris Johnson can advocate asylum for undocumented migrants when he's the London chieftain, but then deport those migrants to Rwanda when he becomes the national chieftain. The ideas don't matter. He's not loyal to them. He's only in the Tory party because it is the party of his tribe. And so he uses it to ensure that his friends and fellow members of his tribe can be enriched and protected and get good jobs. Now, replace the word tribe with class, replace the word sleaze, so often used in Britain, with corruption, and you see how all the sneering language through which Westerners talk of Africa or South America, in fact, describes realities far more acute, far more sharp here in Britain. Small cliques monopolizing wealth and power, and then using political institutions from the state to the media, which is pliant enough to delete inconvenient stories, using political institutions to defend and secure their control. And then they even have the gall to tell other people to take back control with a straight face because they've done so well at conjuring other enemies to keep them in place. That is the challenge of a ruling class trying to maintain itself in a democratic society. So this is shot through with all of the kinds of realities of tribal loyalty or class power that would be sneered at if they happened anywhere else in the world. But when it happens in Britain, we should still call it corruption too.
Of course, you always get this very frustrating thing where if, the left suggests that this kind of thing happens, that there is a direct line between politicians and editors or proprietors, and that affects coverage. People say, oh, you're being so conspiratorial. Journalists are completely independent. I've never been told what to publish or what not to publish. Then you get, clear, direct evidence of it and essentially an admission. Number 10 have said, we did speak to them before and after publication. And then you get all the same people saying, oh, well, of course this happens. Of course, you're going to have conversations between politicians and media proprietors and editors. Don't be so naive. They're sort of knowingly, why are you outraged? Of course, we all knew this. All of us here at Novara Media are working harder than ever to keep scrutinizing establishment politicians and the media barons who protect them. We don't have billionaire funders. We don't have advertising partnerships. We're funded entirely by you. If you've ever thought about supporting us, now's the time to go to novaramedia.com/support and donate anything you can from just £1 per month. Defy the corporate media, join our monthly supporters and help build our supporter base to 10,000 strong.